And we are live. Welcome everyone out there in LinkedIn universe and everyone who's watching the playback. So excited that you've joined us for what is our final for 2022, our final roundtable and Q&A for Rubberband. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been an amazing year and we've got really exciting content planned for next year. We will be returning the final Monday in January, but today, I am absolutely honoured to be joined by four very highly regarded industry professionals. And we are going to be talking about how to deliver an award-winning candidate experience. And I think CX or candidate experience has been such an important part of 2022. So I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Steve Gard, Anna Statham, Elise Motee and Yvonne Sims today as we talk about candidate experience and, of course, the wonderful team at Komatsu and how they've delivered an award-winning candidate experience. So to kick it off, let's introduce you all and say a big hello to everyone out there. So I'm just going to go based on the screen. I'm going to start with you, Steve Gard, and I just would love you to all tell us a little bit about yourselves, your businesses, your roles. Tell us all about you, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Eden. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Gard. I'm the founder of the Circle Back Initiative, which I started during the pandemic. We're going to, I think, talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But I also am the founder of Benchmarks, which is a brand new candidate experience benchmarking platform, which we launched this year.
Fantastic. Welcome, Steve. Pleasure to see you again. I've spent a lot of time with you this year, so excited about next year as well.
Yeah.
And then we have Anna Statham. Hi, Anna.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm the National Talent Acquisition Manager at Komatsu. So I've been at Komatsu for about 2.5 years now and have 15 plus years experience within TA or talent acquisition. So we've got a team of around 15 now of TA on site at Komatsu.
Wow. Fantastic. Welcome. So great to see you. And also from Komatsu, we've got Elise Motee. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Eden. I really appreciate being on today's session, and I partner very closely with Anna. So I'm the regional HR manager for our southern region within Komatsu. And so from a HR perspective today, it's going to be really quite fascinating to share insights on a positive and award-winning candidate experience. So looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And before I hand over to Yvonne, just for people who, out there who don't know Komatsu, what do Komatsu do exactly, Elise?
Yeah, sure. So Komatsu is a very large mining and earth-moving machinery organisation. We have a number of yellow machines that you'd see out on the road as you're driving down the highway. And so a lot of our machinery, is predominantly around the large mining equipment that you would have in the northern parts of of Australia and also around the western region. Specifically in my region, in southern, we do a lot of construction and utility equipment and quarrying. So we really do have an end-to-end life cycle of all different types of products, from earth moving right through to machinery in the mining space.
Oh, magic. What an exciting industry to be recruiting in as well. That's fabulous.
It
is. I can imagine. And then finally, and you all know that I'm a massive fan of live hire, so I'm very, very excited to also introduce my friend Yvonne Sims. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thanks, Eden, and hi everyone out in LinkedIn universe. Yvonne Sims, I'm one of the account directors here at Live Hire. I've been with Live Hire since late 2015 with a small break in the middle there. But prior to that, I spent about 12 years actually as a recruiter and leading recruitment teams and working on improvement projects. But when I made the move to Live Hire, I've never looked back. It's an awesome tech, very passionate about it. And I've been working closely with Komatsu for the last 12 months. But the relationship that we've had with them spans a couple of years now. So very delighted to be here today to talk about how they're kicking butt with candidate experience.
Fantastic. And how Livehire is kicking butt with candidate experience as well. I think it's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan, because it's a platform with CX at the forefront. And I think that's just so important. But on that note, I'm keen to hear from each of you in terms of, what does candidate experience mean to you? What is CX? Why are we passionate about it? Why are we always talking about it? And Steve, I'll start with you.
I mean, for me, it's the foundation of good recruiting. It's the foundation that everything sits on. So, you know, we often talk about, you know, having amazing attraction strategies and amazing selection methodologies. But if the candidate doesn't like you, none of that matters.
Of course.
Because they're not going to join you. And those that are silver and bronze medalists aren't going to join your talent pools. You're just going to have a database of disgruntled people who once upon a time liked you enough to apply. So it's, for me, it's the absolute foundation of good recruiting.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And particularly in the environment that we now recruit, it's very different to what it was 10 years ago. You know, Anna, you mentioned you've got 15 years experience. I've got 12. It was such a different market back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, what does it mean to you? Why is CX a particular passion of yours?
I was thinking about this, and I think it's the first feel, it's the first touch that a candidate has on an organisation. So it's critical, because they're going to take away that first impression. So we need to be as authentic and real to make sure the candidates, you know, getting the right impression, and they really understand the organisation.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And, you know, both of you are absolutely right. It's that first impression and making sure that you're providing that experience that they would expect, just as if they were a customer. I couldn't agree more. How about yourself, Elise? What does CX mean to you?
Yeah, I think Steve and Anna have certainly covered this off, but for me, absolutely, it's that first touch point. Often it happens even before a candidate is actually considering joining your organisation. But I guess the role that I play from a HR perspective is the candidate experience, in my opinion, ends on their first day of work. And that's then when they join a business, the employee experience kicks in. And quite often, if you don't have a positive candidate experience, that can then sort of have a negative impact from an onboarding perspective with their employee experience. And so for me, this is where the two go hand in hand, and why it's so important for us to get it right from the start.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that connection as well, making sure that journey between CX and EX is really important too, and making sure it's consistent. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's where a lot of companies actually struggle, or where that kind of breakdown does happen at times when that isn't effective. So I absolutely agree, 100%. Yvonne, CX first organisation you work for, but tell me, what does it mean to you? What does CX mean to you?
Look, definitely echo what others have said with regards to that first impression. I think certainly where someone like Livehire comes in, where you've got the technology that empowers you to deliver that experience, is always incredibly helpful. But I also like to sort of think about the candidate experience as it's delivered by the entire business, not just the recruiters who are dealing with the candidates, but it's the hiring managers, it's the line leaders, it's, you know, the people that are the voice of the business, you know, other employees. And how do you wrap your arms around those people to ensure that that experience is consistent at the forefront of the recruitment process? So that's what it means to me. Cool.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think, even what you say there, I think a lot of that pressure quite often falls on recruitment teams, but it's all org. Every individual plays a really important part in candidate experience, and quite often it's over to the talent acquisition team to educate and make sure that businesses understand that. And then when you've got amazing technology that can bring that to life, then you've got the perfect combo. So that's awesome. For me, CX is really important. I think, you know, any role that I've been in, it's really looking at voice of customer, or putting myself in the customer shoes and making sure that consistency with candidate and customer experience is there, as well as employee experience. Something I've always been really passionate about. So I'm delighted to be here today, but I've got to stop talking because I've got so many opinions. I want to hear about Komatsu, because I didn't know a lot about Komatsu. I knew your brand, but I didn't know a lot about you previously. So I'm really excited to have met both Anna and Elise. And how did you I suppose, tell us about your tech stack. How did you come about designing and implementing a CX first model for talent acquisition? That can be a hard thing to do. Like, how did it all come about?
Yep,
tell us about that, Emma.
So I think firstly it's taking a step back and really understanding what the business priorities are. So, you know, what are we trying to achieve as an organisation? What do we want to stand for? And aligning that to the best technology. So I guess that's the process we sort of worked through, and feeding through the candidate experience, making sure that it was high quality. So it was an easy decision for us around live hire. So live hire is our ATS, as Yvonne's touched on. And I've used a lot of different ATSs over the years, and certainly the most user-friendly. One of the things that I love about it is the integrations that you can do. I think with we've been able to integrate some of our online reference checking tools, so XREF. We also integrated, we've got a psych provider that we work with, and we've been able to integrate that into live hire. So it's just a really seamless process in terms of what the candidate sees and feels, and also for our hiring managers and consultants in our team. We work with pretty high volume recruitment because we've got quite a big business that we're looking after. So we want it to be as seamless and easy to sort of work through. And I guess on that, what we've also integrated is our video interviewing tool. So we have a video tool that we have. And we, at this stage, we mostly use it for our volume campaigns. So we have a massive apprentice campaign each year, and we've also got 3 other projects that we're working on. So we've kind of integrated my interview with that, and that's worked beautifully. So I guess there's some of our key elements, and we just regularly stay across, review, understand any issues, make sure it's working best, get feedback from the business, so from our HR, from hiring managers, from candidates, and just really understand how that's working. I think the other thing I wanted to touch on is just with our applicant tracking system. So with live hire, we've got a huge talent pool, which is awesome. So that talent community, and good to be able to stay in touch and update regularly. So probably, I guess that's our tech stack. That's how we did it. It's pretty simple in terms of, you know, just looking at different providers, what's going to be best for what we're doing at Komatsu, and going from there.
And I absolutely love that you talk about nurturing that talent community and those talent pools, because I think something that's really important is, you know, when you're looking at candidate experience, it's not just the candidate that's in front of you for the role that's in front of you. It's something that needs to be ongoing. And I think, you know, nurturing passive talent or nurturing key talent that are in those communities, and make sure you're providing that experience, regardless of whether you're about to hire them or regardless of whether they're right for the role that's in front of you, is really, really important. And the fact that you have nailed that is really exciting, because that's the future of recruitment, really, and the way we should all be operating. What I love and what I was so excited to hear about Komatsu is that you were recognised for what you've put together, and for your CX First model, with 2 Candy Awards. So congratulations, Anna and Elise, and of course Steve and Yvonne, who played a part in that as well, I'm sure. But look, congratulations. I really would love to hear about this achievement. And for those out there, I suppose, for you to explain what the Candy Awards are, for those who aren't familiar, and how you won such prestigious awards too. Incredible.
Thanks. You know what? I should have brought along our trophy. We just got it delivered in the post last week. But no, but really the team, I mean, our team works really, really hard to achieve that. But what the Candy Awards are, a survey that was sent out to, I think we sent it out to about 3,000 or 4,000 candidates just to gain feedback. So that's the first step. So the Candy Awards are run through Talent Board. So that's a global organisation. And then you're sort of benchmarked in APAC, so against other organisations and what they're doing. So yeah, we were lucky that we received that recognition. So I guess in terms of what we did to get there, I think it's about considering each of the touch points that you have with a candidate, so that life cycle and that journey and what that looks like from a candidate perspective. So how are we updating them? What are the comms like? Does it align with our who we are, again, as an organisation? So we've gone through and really refined that to make sure we're comfortable with our wording and narrative. And we make sure, I think, you know, and I think Steve would probably really agree with this, but I think it's all about getting back to your candidates, even if it's just with an update to let them know where you're at, what's happening, as you do with your hiring managers, of course. But so we do that really well, I think, as a team. So, and it depends on what stage of the process as to whether it's an email communication or a verbal communication. Massive believer that if a candidate has spent the time in going through an interview, we need to pick up the phone and give them feedback and sort of close that out, whether they've been successful or not. And I think that goes a long way in terms of whether, you know, they'll speak well about your organisation and potentially consider you another time. And like you touched on, you know, it's crazy times at the moment. I was chatting with Seek the other day, and they mentioned that in their 25-year history, they placed 265,000 job ads, which is more than ever. So I guess the importance of that candidate experience is like I've never seen before. So yes, so I think we regularly sit down as a team and go, what do we need to do differently? How do we improve our process from here? How do we enhance that? What sort of questions are we asking at interview? What information are we sharing before the interview, after the interview? So yes, it's just been really across that basically. So I think I touched on that authentic piece earlier, and that part of it is around setting the candidates up for success in the roles to make sure that they're coming into the business and actually know what their role is going to be, what it looks like, and then, you know, that from a retention perspective, that they're going to stay. So we obviously, once we've hired them, we want to keep them as well. So
100%.
Yeah, they're probably key points.
Awesome. Well, congratulations once again. That is such an achievement, particularly so soon into the journey as well. So congratulations once again. We touched a little bit there, I guess, from an internal lens. So I might ask you, Elise, what do you think has been the most impactful internal change to enhance the candidate experience within Komatsu?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I think Yvonne sort of mentioned this earlier about it. It's talent acquisition is such a key part of this process, and managing that positive candidate experience from the time the candidate has applied for an opportunity. But I think what we've done internally and where we've focused our attention on is our interviewers, and making sure that our hiring managers have received all the adequate training to really, I guess from our perspective in HR, and Anna and with her talent acquisition team, is to start challenging their perceptions in relation to what a good candidate experience looks like. Generationally, we've had to bring people up with the current times and certainly what we're seeing in the market. And so by going through this training, it's really given the space for our hiring managers to start to reflect on, well, what journey, what story do they want to share when they're actually recruiting for opportunities. Definitely going back to what Anna was saying about that authenticity piece, and really making sure that our campaigns are focused on diversity and inclusivity, making sure that they align with our values and brand when they're meeting with candidates, and really helping them prepare for a positive news story, essentially, when we sit down and meet with a candidate. So a lot of this actually goes back to our interviewer panel as well. And so making sure that we have a diverse interviewer panel where we have different backgrounds, identities and experiences, so that, you know, essentially we are attracting diverse talent as well through that process. But just lastly, I think when Anna and I were chatting about some of the stuff that we do, we also spoke about the continuous feedback piece. So Steve, very much aligning with your thoughts and methodologies around that continuous feedback. And so for our internal candidates especially, making sure that we provide very honest, transparent and constructive feedback. And hopefully here we can try and help them align that to their career plans, and hopefully their readiness for their next position if they're not successful for whatever reason. So that's our commitment, and something that I think we have really improved tremendously on to, you know, give a really positive candidate experience, both internally and externally for candidates.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I love something you touched on there in terms of values alignment as well, because I always find that experience that you provide candidates or employees, that alignment to values is critical. And that's where it can break down. If you're not getting back to a candidate, if you're not providing meaningful feedback, you're not aligning yourself to your company values. It's so important, and I absolutely love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's fabulous. Steve, I'm sure this is all music to your ears, everything that you're hearing here in terms of the Circle Back initiative. So tell me, what is Circle Back? For those out there that aren't familiar with it, tell us about the Circle Back initiative. Why is it so important, and how can customers get involved? How can companies get involved? Sorry.
Yeah, so Circle Back, I started it during the pandemic after seeing, I was doing some volunteering with Jobs for Australia, where we were coaching people on Zoom through their CVs and doing mock interviews and stuff like that. And just seeing the stress and anxiety people were going through, obviously being made redundant in a very difficult job market. But that being compounded by employers just not responding to applications and not coming back after interview. And it was quite daunting seeing that. So I started the initiative, which is basically a commitment to respond to every applicant that comes through your recruitment process. And we've created 6 standards that we ask employers to sign up to, which is different ways to communicate outcomes, basically, but committing to make those outcomes going forward. And we then promote them on our website, and they can use our Circle Back wording. Candidates are starting to really recognize this. And specifically applying to jobs that are part of the initiative and spending more time in their application, because there's going to be some sort of return on investment. It might not be an interview, it might not be the job, but it will be an outcome. So, you know, they don't feel it's a black hole that they're throwing their application into. But yeah, so essentially it's a commitment to candidates. We've got about 215 as of this morning employees in Australia and New Zealand that have signed up. Plus more in the UK. We launched a US initiative this year. We've just launched Canada. We've got more countries to come as well. So yeah, and I must add that LiveHire are also because we make it free for employers, right? So we're very reliant on our sponsors to help us keep the lights on. And LiveHire were the very first sponsor that came on board. We had a very interesting conversation, and it was immediate that we fitted hand in glove. And yeah, so they've been with us since almost day one, which is awesome.
I can. It's incredible, Steve, and you know that you've inspired me to set up the Rubberband network. You've inspired a lot of people through the work that you've done. To hear that you're at 215 is so exciting. I remember when you first launched. I think I was one of the first, maybe half a dozen when I was at Flybys that signed up to see the growth. And I think what I love, and I mentioned with Komatsu and hearing that, being music to your ears, I'm sure, and I think it is to mine as well. But to see the impact that you've had on our local industry and driving positive change in the industry is really inspiring. So anyone out there that sees something that they feel needs to change, or something they're passionate about, to go out there and do it. It can be done. We can change the world. And yeah, congratulations to you as well, Steve. You're doing amazing work, and you're an inspiration to all of us, mate. So you won't be able to get out the door now with your big head, but there you go. Just had to give you some kudos.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I mean, in all honesty, it's the employers that are doing the work. They're the ones that are, putting their brand name against this, and putting in their processes, changing their tech stacks, changing their processes so they can join. I'm just bringing them all together. I'm doing the easy bit.
Well, good on you. It's amazing. It's amazing work. But speaking of tech stacks and technology, Yvonne, tell us more about LiveHire. I'm always raving about LiveHire. We've just heard how much Komatsu love it. We've heard the Circle Back are so aligned with what you do. So tell us everything about how LiveHire can bring a strong candidate experience and how it is different to other platforms. I'm going to pretend I know nothing. So everything.
we probably don't have enough time for me to talk through all of it, but I'll definitely focus, I think, on the key aspects, particularly in relation to the candidate experience piece. I think, and having come from that recruitment world, and using a raft of technologies, I certainly appreciated the unique things that LiveHire brings, and I've seen the evolution as well since 2015, and it's been awesome. I think one of the key aspects is the two-way messaging between candidate and employer. So you can facilitate a conversation and really empower that candidate engagement piece. On average, our clients will expect to see an SMS response time of 17 minutes, which is next to nothing via SMS when they're engaging. So it's super fast. Komatsu certainly are well and truly on that benchmark as well in terms of candidate responsiveness. The other piece is around the flexibility that LiveHire gives clients to be able to personalise, brand, create personalised and branded message templates. So you can tailor that messaging to reflect the tone and voice of the business. And really help facilitate those moments that matter throughout whether it's the recruitment process or even that proactive engagement piece with people in your talent pool. We surface the recruitment, the progress of the candidate to the candidate on their profile, so they're not left hanging and wondering what's going on with my application. We also help the TA team close the feedback loop. I know we've spoken about this with the Circle Back initiative. So, even before you close the job, LiveHire reminds the recruiter to, you've got some people sitting in these stages, and just to remind you to close that feedback loop with candidates so that no one's left behind. One of the things that I'm super passionate about is our analytics, and LiveHire allows you to visualize and benchmark and track some candidate engagement metrics such as responsiveness, acceptance rates for jobs and talent community invites, both of which you can obviously personalize that messaging, as well as being able to sort of see how you're tracking with regards to unsuccessful candidate notifications. And again, calling out Komatsu, they're outperforming best practice according to LiveHire. So, and it's just a great way for recruitment teams to be able to even just benchmark themselves against each other. So, and what I mean by that is you can even track how strong your team are in messaging and what the responsiveness is like for each individual TA partner. And you can learn from each other. So it's not supposed to be used as a tool to, compare people, but to learn off each other, because some people might have a strong response rate to job invites, for example, and it's an opportunity to learn, what are you saying to these people? What's that messaging that's going out to those people, and why is that yielding such a really strong response rate, as an example? And with those job invites, typically our clients will see at least 30% of candidates accepting a personalised invitation to be shortlisted for a role. So these are people that haven't even necessarily applied to a role. They're just people that are in your community who have put their hand up and say, hey, I want to be connected with you. Anna mentioned the third-party integrations, obviously, just to really help streamline and optimise that recruitment process. And the final piece is probably around where you do have those silver medalists and those bronze medalists. LiveHire helps to empower, again, the team throughout every step of the recruitment process. You've got the opportunity to talent pool people that, you can see that they're a great fit for your business, irrespective of what the outcome might be for the role that they've applied for. You can talent pool them at any time.
Amazing. And I think a lot of what you touch on there as well. I know we're talking candidate experience here, but it's the recruiter experience as well, and being able to nurture those pipelines effectively as a recruiter or as a hiring manager as well, because hiring managers can play a really important part in building those communities and talent pools as well. I know I love the feature that you talked about in terms of that prompt when you're closing out a job, because I think sometimes recruiters, even for all the best intentions, things can fall through the crack because they're so incredibly busy. And I know, from hands-on experience, there were a number of times where I went to close off a job and it said to me, Eden, you haven't notified this candidate. And I've gone, oh my God, I meant to call them yesterday. Because it does happen. People get busy and people make mistakes. And I think having that really great, I guess, buffer or safety net with Live Hire, that was one of the features that I loved, because it made sure that, you know, I didn't make those silly mistakes from time to time, even with the best intentions. It can happen to people. So I love it. I love the two-way SMS as well. Again, recruiter experience. It makes your life so much easier because you can communicate with the candidate in the way that suits them at a time that suits them. So amazing. Love Live Hire. Huge fan. Glad Komatsu love it. Glad Steve and the Circle Back Initiative love it. Keep doing great things, Live Hire. And local technology. So great to support local.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now, we've talked about a little bit. We've talked about 2022. 2023 is just around the corner. You can tell I'm breathing because this year's nearly over. It's been a big one. I'm going to go around the panel and ask your opinion. I'm going to ask you three things. What do you think 2023 will have in store for us? Do you think, Anna, you talked about this, you know, it's been definitely a candidate market. Do we think it will continue to be a candidate market, or will it shift? And also, what do we need to do now as we're winding down to prepare for the year ahead? So those are my three questions. If you need me to repeat them, just let me know. I'm being a bit ambitious with a three-pronged one, right? But Steve, what are your opinions on that? 2023.
I think 2023 is going to be more the same of 2022. To be honest, I think. Okay. I think, you know, it's been a tough time in tech, in the tech sector in particular. I think that will come back towards the end of the mid to end of the year, hopefully. But in terms of general sort of candidate experience, I think it's going to be more of the same. It's, you know, what I've seen with Circle Back in particular, when we started, it was a real employer-driven market, and we set it up for the benefit of candidates. And now it's a candidate-driven market, and employers are getting benefit out of it. So what that says to me is it doesn't matter what the market's like, candidate experience matters all the time. So yeah, I guess that's my vague answer to the 2023. What were the other questions? I can remember.
What was the other question? So do you feel the market will remain the same? I know you talked about the challenges in technology. Do you think we'll see more candidates in the market? I mean, I know from my experience 2022, and I was recruiting in technology 2022, there were more roles than candidates. There were a hell of a lot more roles than candidates. So it was, you know, quite a challenge. Do you think that will shift?
I think that will remain the same. I can't see it changing overnight, or certainly in the next sort of 3 quarters. I think, you know, recruiting's always been a challenge anyway. Generally, I think it's just a tight market, and it will continue that way. Yeah,
sure. So in you know, with that in mind, as hopefully some teams are starting to wind down and catch their breath, what sort of things should they think about to prepare for next year, Steve?
Good question. I think again, with the candidate experience lens on it, it's really starting to start to map out that journey that you want candidates to go through. If you're not already doing that, I think that's absolutely critical. It's really understanding and having that clarity on what you want them to experience, and having that clear in your mind. You know, if you haven't done that, I think 2023 is a good opportunity to get started with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And look, I'll ask a question around that in a moment, but we'll continue on this one. And Anna, what do you think about 2023? You know, what has it got in store for us? What should we do to prepare?
I think we're definitely going into the new year with still a candidate type market. I think candidates still have really high expectations, and I think that will continue through the year, where they're able to drive, you know, the opportunities and what they're looking at. So I feel like, we've sort of looked at, and I've had conversations in the business with what the priorities are going to be and what volumes look like, and there's no changes for us. It's going to be really busy again, which is exciting. And that sort of, I guess, leads us into the piece around what we're doing to set up for next year or close out this year. So we've had a lot of thought that we've put into that, and we've got a really nice list of projects that we've drawn up for next year. So within our TA team and partnering with HR. So we're getting together in early next year to have a strategy planning day to kind of map through and work on those, which is exciting. And I think as a side note, as recruiters, it's always nice to have additional projects to kind of own and work on as well to enhance the process and what you're doing. So yeah, we're getting together early next year. And I think was that my 3 questions?
Yeah, for sure. But exciting to hear such a strong partnership between your talent and HR functions as well. I think that's really critical. And that the fact that your talent team are getting the opportunity to work on those kind of projects. I think that can be a struggle for a lot of talent professionals. So I'm excited to hear that. So Elise, you're absolutely welcome. Elise, what do you think next year's going to have in store for us? What's around the corner for 2023, and what should we do to prepare for it?
Yeah, I think Steve and Anna have certainly covered everything off, but I guess we often take this downtime as an opportunity to breathe and be like, that was the year that was, My advice would be for hiring managers to really start planning and thinking, like, from a forecast perspective, what opportunities sort of will maybe present within their teams, and making sure that they've really got the fundamentals ready to go. So, for example, updated position descriptions, which are a true reflection on the opportunities that they're going to recruit for. This absolutely helps the talent acquisition team or the recruitment team, whoever it is that's supporting those campaigns, be able to successfully draft, adverts that are going to attract the talent. They may even be able to tap into passive candidates in their talent communities, for example, ours in Live Hire, or even their Seek profiles, wherever it is that they have that passive market. But to start, I think this is the time where candidates take a bit of a breather. They go on holidays and they might start to reassess New Year's resolutions, who knows, but they really do reassess and think about what they want out of 2023. And I think there'll be candidates out there that might just be scrolling on the beach, sipping on a drink, thinking, what is 2023 got in store for me? And let's hope that they are the type of candidates that will be attracted to possibly your adverts that you have out there. So hiring managers, I know I'm harping on a little bit with our hiring managers, but they really are key. They play a real key role in a positive experience for our candidates, and certainly for our talent acquisition teams to be successful. So I'd say that's probably what people should be focusing on as we enter 2023. And yes, it's going to be busy, I think, in multiple industries. And certainly within Komatsu. So Anna, sorry, you're going to have a little bit of a breather, but full steam ahead when you get back.
Well, here we go. I'll help you with that. Anyone out there that might be interested in working for Komatsu, time to start thinking about it. There's a lot of roles that are about to hit Anna's team. Look into it, research it, follow them on LinkedIn, join their talent community. Team Komatsu.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eden.
No, absolutely. And Yvonne, you've got so many clients, and like you mentioned, in terms of the analytics that you have, you get to see a lot of trends that are happening out there. What do you think will 2023 will look like? What's it got in store for us? What could we do now to start preparing? Do you think that the market's going to change? What are your thoughts?
I think it will be the same. So candidates short, lots of jobs, not enough candidates. And I think it's going to maybe force employers to look at maybe a little bit more from what's happening internally. So internal mobility, more so than they have before, as well as other things like, backfilling through a contingent workforce, or, other thinking a little bit differently about where they're getting the skills that they need to fill their roles from. Something that we did notice towards the latter part of this year was there was an increasing focus across a lot of our clients around EVP and employer brand. And again, that's, as part of that whole attraction process, everyone's competing, big industries are competing from the same pond, and it really is around how do you set yourself apart from your competition, so that you can attract that talent that you need. And yeah, I think they're the biggest ones, is probably more so around that internal mobility and other ways of filling roles, EVP employment branding, but more importantly also your talent pools. So where you do have those set up, making sure that you're tapping into those pools, because I feel like there is going to be a shift at some point where there's going to be a lot more movement in the market from a candidate perspective. And I think if you can set yourself up for success early, make sure you've got those talent pools aligned to your workforce plan, whatever that looks like, and just nurturing that talent, because they're already connected with you, so they want to be part of your business. It's just, you're not always going to have all the jobs for everybody at that point in time. So making sure you're nurturing them and have some strategies in place. They empower your hiring managers as well to nurture that talent. I was really, really pleased to hear Elise mention that, because I bang on about that a lot as well, is creating talent, discipline champions within your line leaders, and also, people that have been in the business for a while, technical specialists, people that, could really be advocates for your business, leveraging those people to not only promote your business across their socials, but also bring in those referrals that are so high quality.
For sure. There are a couple of things I just want to touch on with you, Yvonne, before I ask the final question of the panel. Two things that I completely agree with, and two things that I think can sometimes fall through the cracks again, is in terms of CX when it comes to internal mobility, and then our poor contingent workforce that quite often don't receive the same experience as our permanent workforce as well when applying for roles. Does LiveHire support both mobility and contingent? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, funnily enough, Flybys, you would remember, you were trialing one of our sort of internal mobility products, where I guess it empowered your workforce to be able to visualize what their future might look like in terms of future roles within the business.
I love that module, by the way. I hope it continues. Loved it.
And also, whenever someone connects with you through LiveHire will segment them based on their response selection. So they'll earmark someone if they're a contractor versus if they're an existing employee versus whether they're external, or even an alumni, a past employee. Which is also another a brilliant source of talent, is reconnecting with your boomerangs, the people that are good people that left and you can bring back into the business. So you can easily identify those people from within LiveHire, and then tailor your engagement strategies in how you connect with those people and nurture those people going forward.
Excellent. I'm gonna say something in terms of, from my opinion, 2023 that you touched on. I think we're going to see more of these alumni programs. I mean, I don't mean graduate alumni from university. I mean alumni from organisations, obviously, as you do. For those that are out there, past employees. Identifying your critical talent that have left the business, because we did have a lot of turnover at the start of last year in most organizations. It was kind of that coming out of lockdown, coming out of the pandemic, well, semi coming out of the pandemic, I suppose, but people being a little bit more comfortable with the future and making that choice to move. I think the companies that are going to succeed in 2023, if this market remains the same, as those that tap into and nurture those alumni. I think that it's a really, really great observation from you, Yvonne, and something that I completely agree with. So wonderful. Oh, I've just seen the time, and I always like to talk for ages, so I've got to shut up. I'm going to ask you all a final question around the table. For TA professionals out there that are listening, keen to improve their CX, what is, and that can be very overwhelming because there's always a lot of things that you need to do. What, in your opinion, what is the first step that they need to take? Steve, first step to improve their CX?
I get asked this question all the time. How do we improve? Where do we start? And it's such a massive subject. I mean, it's almost, you're almost going to be sort of guessing which part of candidate experience you need to fix or focus on. So I've already alluded to one bit, but I think the next bit for me is measuring it. You've got to measure candidate experience at a granular level all the time. So running one survey a year just isn't going to be enough. You need to run it consistently all the time. And that will tell you where your issues are. And I think the other thing to think about, it's not just because my platform does this, is actually benchmarking that data as well. Because if you're not comparing yourself to how the experience that other employers are giving the candidates you're also speaking to, you may think you've got a great candidate experience, but it's not a competitive one. And what we're seeing in our platform is the benchmark scores are changing all the time. So if you're constantly got an eye on it, you can adapt as you need to. So I think understanding what your experience wants to be, but measuring that is key. You've got to have a real critical laser eye on it.
I completely agree. And I think it's not only looking for the opportunities for improvement, doing that benchmarking. Yeah, doing that benchmarking and finding out what you're doing really well and doing more of that and elevating that, really helping, you know, Yvonne, you talked about employer brand, you know, helping your reputation and setting yourself apart. So if you don't know what you're doing well, that's another opportunity, right? You need to benchmark to learn that.
We've got employees that have done that. They've gone, actually, we're doing better than most people at this, looking at the benchmark data. We're going to do more of it because we can see it's making a difference.
Yep, love it. Absolutely love it. For you, Anna, what is step one? Teams that are looking to improve their CX. Where do they start?
So I think following on from what Steve mentioned, I think it's thinking about what your point of difference is. So what have you got that candidates are looking for? And then pausing and thinking about where you're currently at and where you want to be, and then mapping it out from there. So step by step, a really simple process of mapping out what that looks like, what you need to change, and then just piece it out and work through what that looks like from a process, a tech, a communication piece, and flow through from that perspective.
Fantastic. Couldn't agree more. Point of difference. It's what it's all about, and celebrating it. Completely agree. How about yourself, Elise?
Yeah, I think all of what everyone said, I don't know if there's much more that I can add, but one thing I do think that we could probably all do better on is getting the buy-in, and also sort of speaking with our hiring managers, people that are involved in the interviewer panels, as well as our talent acquisition team, to find out what maybe some of their frustrations are, or what are things that they think don't work, or possibly what they find really helpful, because getting their buy-in and their insights will certainly help you understand where those opportunities might lie. One other thing that I think that we also do a good job at Komatsu is sort of speaking with our new hires as well, as a bit of a stay analysis as to why they're still with us, and what it is that they've enjoyed about their time with us thus far. And often the candidate experience right from the time they've applied for the opportunity will come up. So I think that that's another bit of information that you can really tap into to find out, you know, firsthand how that experience has then obviously gone into the employee experience as well, and hopefully been a positive one.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. It is looking at and benchmarking not just from an external lens. You need to understand what good CX means to your people as well, to your hiring managers, to your new employees, to your existing employees. It's really important. I completely agree. And finally, Yvonne, step one.
Gosh, I think definitely, yeah. I think everyone's covered everything. I don't know that I've got anything to add either, but I guess in thinking about that question, I'm like going, well, you know, you are building a relationship with candidates. I guess that's at the forefront of that candidate experience, and I think looking at it from probably a psychology lens, you know, if there's ever a breakdown in a relationship, it's usually communication that's the issue. So I think maybe even looking at, you know, how are you even communicating to candidates? You know, once you've addressed what are we doing well, what can we improve, is looking at how you're communicating with candidates. You know, creating those moments that matter. You know, I don't think you need to spam candidates. I think there's certain touch points in the process. But yeah, maybe thinking about how you're communicating, and are you communicating with authenticity? I know that was one of the things Anna spoke about, because that's you being real about your business and your brand. and you know, and that's what's going to connect the candidates to you, I think.
100%.
Eden, can I just add something?
Of course.
Thank you. So I think it is a big subject. It's a massive subject, but candidate experiences, there's two things to candidate experience for me. One, it is the leveler. So it levels the playing field in recruiting. So it doesn't matter if you've got an amazing brand that's well known or you don't, or you're in a particular location or you don't, or you've got a lower salary than others. It levels the playing field, because if you can nail candidate experience, you know, sometimes that can overcome things like brand name and even salary to some extent. So it levels it,
right? Yeah.
Sorry?
Like industries that, you know, perhaps are considered sexy in the market. You're absolutely right.
If a candidate loves you, they'll join you. The second thing is most of it can be done for nothing, right? So, okay, tech helps, but most of your improvements can be done for nothing. So, you know, roll that ball right to the top of the hill, right to the very, very top, and let it just sort of roll down, you know, naturally. But don't be scared to really try and do some really cool stuff, because generally you don't need a lot of budget to do it. And it makes a massive, massive difference.
Absolutely. Very wise words, Mr. Gard. Thank you very much. And on that note, look, I wanted to thank the panel, Steve and Yvonne. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, I'm such a big advocate for both of the brands that you have, Live Hire and Circle Back and Benchmark CX. Love your work. Keep it up. You're doing amazing things in the Australian industry. And Anna and Elise from Komatsu. Now, Internal Talent Awards next year, the ITAs. I'm hoping I see Komatsu submitting, and I'll be there in the crowd cheering you on. It's just been such a pleasure to have met you, and I really appreciate you joining us and telling us about your journey, because I feel that for everyone out there that's been watching and listening today, you've really shown that it is achievable. And like Steve says, it can be the little things, and then you continue to build. So well done to both of you. Well done to Komatsu, to the entire talent team, to all of your hiring managers. We've had a couple of comments just pop up. You know, someone, Francesca out there, hi Francesca, loved the comment that most of it, as I was saying, can be done for nothing, as Steve said. It's not difficult to have that impact. And someone else has messaged on LinkedIn as well that you could argue candidate experience as part of your employer brand and employee brand. And I think you've demonstrated that today. So, panel, thank you so much. Everyone out there, thank you. You've been amazing. And everyone out there in LinkedIn universe and Rubberband universe, thank you so much for this year. This is our last roundtable for 2022. I almost went 2020. God, I'm behind myself. I look forward to seeing you in Jan 2023. But again, panel, thank you so much and have an amazing evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.